Hello, it's Jillian with The Jillian Show, and today we're sitting and talking with Jenny Shreiber, who's the Executive Director of Jeff's Place. So welcome. I'm glad to have you here today, Jenny.
Thanks for having me here, Jillian.
Absolutely. So, all right, so let's jump in. As I had indicated to you in email, instantly when we met, I knew I wanted to talk with you further. And the reason I wanted to connect with you via Skype is I think that I'm certain that we have lots that we can connect on, but I also feel like you have such an important message and something that I'm very passionate about as well. So I wanted the opportunity to kind of connect our conversation and make it available to people online because I think that there's a lot of value, and I'm just kind of excited to help get the word out there, both in terms of what you're doing personally and also what Jeff's Place is all about. So again, I thank you for being willing to do so and connecting with me today.
My pleasure.
Cool. So I, of course, know some of your story from when we met recently, but what I was hoping you might be willing to do is just kind of give a little bit of a background about kind of how, if you're willing to, share about really what Jeff's Place is and how that came into fruition.
Okay. How much time do you have? No,
as long as you need. It's we're here.
Okay. So Jeff's Place is actually a short name for Jeff's Place Children's Bereavement Center.
Mm-hmm.
And we provide a number of things, but the primary service we provide are peer-based support groups for children preschool through high school who are coping with the death of someone close. Mm-hmm. Currently, all of our participants have had a parent or a sibling who has died. And in addition, potentially some other losses as well. We don't define the death in terms of the relationship to the person. Our philosophy is that if the death has a meaningful impact on their lives, in the way they live and experience their life on a day-to-day basis, and they want to be with other kids who quote-unquote get it, then our doors are open. At the moment, these are the kids that we're serving, though, as parent or sibling death. How Jeff's Place grew from a number of different areas, I'd say. Mm-hmm. My background is as a licensed clinician. I'm a social worker. Mm-hmm. And but part of what propelled me into the field of social work and human services has been my upbringing and my experiences with loss growing up, and my models of the people who were important to me in my life on coping strategies and how to live and really life views. My brother Jeff was 17 when he died. I was 13 at the time. I have another brother who was between us at the time. And his death was unexpected. And back then, people didn't talk about death. And certainly not when it was in the context of an unnatural way, meaning children. You expect older people to die. You don't expect kids to die. And it just wasn't acknowledged. It wasn't talked about. In our family it was, but it was awkward conversations. But in society, it really wasn't. Now, the schools are getting much better about acknowledging when there's a kid who has died in the school, and there's memorials, and there's all these rituals and support, typically those short term. But back then, it just really wasn't even acknowledged. It was one of those, if you don't talk about it, then maybe it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my personal side that has brought it to me, and my sense of isolation was huge. And I had a really strong family system, a really strong community, really strong friends, individual friends, but also family friends. I had all of those, what as clinicians we call protective factors.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yet I still had a really, really difficult time for a good decade, I'd say, maybe longer. So Jeff's Place, the concept and the model of Jeff's Place grew out of my personal and professional experiences. But the actual model of Jeff's Place grew out of a program I founded and ran in Rhode Island back in the late 90s called Friends Way, which is an acronym for Families Reaching into Each New Day. And that is thankfully a thriving, huge, Rhode Island's only freestanding independent children's grievance center. They've served probably close to 500 families at this point, if not more. It's a pretty big organization. But my training before starting Friends Way was when I was a clinician working in, believe it or not, I was working in Texas, and I volunteered at a program called the Warm Place in Fort Worth, and it was a freestanding children's bereavement center, and they were really, they were really the head of the curve in terms of children's program, a freestanding program just for grieving children and families. So I really learned through them, and the director really kind of took me under her wing and basically said, Jen, you've got the passion, you've got the personal experience, you've got the professional experience. Let me teach you how to start a program. And that's what I did. Surrounded myself but with incredible people, built a wonderful board of directors, and with them together as a team, we grew Friends Way. And around the same time, approximately the same years, there was a program called the Children's Room, which is based in Arlington, that was developing at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we used to cross-refer to our programs all the time. So given the fact that I lived in the Metro West area, the Children's Room, up until about 4 or 5 years ago, they had a satellite small group that was in Framingham for Metro West families who had experienced a death, and they were getting ready to close that program and basically said to me, would you please take it over, otherwise there's no program for Metro West. And long story short, eventually I did, and we built Jeff's Place, and it's been growing and thriving incredibly in the 2.5 years that we've been running.
Wow. I have to say, I'm so moved by your willingness to really be vulnerable and to put yourself out there and to use your own personal experiences to help others. I'm not sure if I seek these people out or if or what, but I seem to meet them on frequently rather, and you're one of them for sure, and I give you tremendous credit for doing so. It's hard to do. I mean, obviously dealing with a subject matter like death, all of us are deal with it at one point or another in our lives, and I know personally I've experienced a tremendous amount of it myself. So we'll talk about that some other time or later on or what have you, but I know obviously that a lot of people are very uncomfortable talking about it, and you kind of mentioned that already, so I give you credit for not only doing so, but in such a way to help spur dialogue for the children and for just the community at large. I think it's a very necessary conversation, and it's so critical, and so I really applaud you in your efforts for what you have done and what you've really dedicated your career to. So I give you a hashtag kudos for sure.
Thank you. It's very kind words. I don't think of it that way. I'm so lucky to be able to do this work, and I feel really privileged, and to be able to go on these journeys with these kids and families and watch them really create a new normal in their life. It's a privilege. And to be able to educate the people who touch their lives in some way, good, bad, and different, but they're part of human nature, to be able to educate them a little bit around childhood bereavement by trying to bring my personal experience and be a voice for these kids, because I hadn't found my voice for many years. And I've been doing this for a lot of years, so my voice has gotten, I guess, stronger, and I'm more comfortable with that voice. And to me, it's a privilege, and I get to do my life's work and passion. Not a lot of people get to do that. So
no, you're right. A lot of people don't get to do that, and not everybody chooses to do that because it's not easy to do, no matter what you're passionate about. But certainly when is, pertaining to the subject matter we're, talking about. It's that much more difficult. So, one thing that strikes me as you're talking, and I'm kind of, I'm listening to you and I'm feeling what goes on in my body, having been in similar experiences. I also lost my brother, I told you. It was also an accidental death situation. But I'm curious, being that you're, driving this bus, if you will, day in and day out, do you find that it makes it easier for you? Has this work been cathartic for you yourself? And or does it sometimes, do you ever feel like, gosh, you just wish you could, go, I don't know, be a florist or something and not have to deal with death all the time? So I'm kind of curious, those two things. So is this work cathartic for you? And then also, do you feel like sometimes like enough already?
Right. Yeah, I would say yes, 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 no. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I would say it's certainly at different points in my life and in my growth, it's been cathartic in different ways. It's been cathartic. It's also been enriching. I feel like being part of Jeff's Place or part of Manitou Experience, which is the grief camp where I'm the clinical director for overnight boys camp, Friends Way, any bereavement type work that I've done, I feel enriched by, that I get so much more than I can possibly give to anybody. So it's been cathartic, but it's also my, to do work that's meaningful for you and to feel like you're making a difference in the world is also, it has selfish qualities to it too.
Right.
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
Are there days that I am like, oh, no more? Absolutely. I would say it's no more death. That part doesn't, I hate to say it, but doesn't bother me. To me, it's just part of life. It's part of the life cycle. But I definitely absolutely have the days of, I've had enough of the responsibility that goes with it in terms of, you have to have a program that's viable, sustainable, fundable. Those are the things that I say, why am I doing this? Maybe I'm just going to go on hiatus for a couple months. Of course I can't, because then there's no program.
The kids count on you.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, absolutely. From the content of the work I'm doing, never.
So the business side of it is the part you want to kind of
Yes.
walk away from at times. Okay, so let's, you open that door, so let's walk through that door. So for people who are watching this and maybe are just finding out about Jeff's Place for the first time, what are the ways that people could get involved to either, we'll talk more about, how they can learn about it and what resources you have available, but with this conversation, how can people contribute or help out in one way or another with Jeff's Place?
So we have so many ways people can help out. We're primarily, I'd say at least 90% run by volunteers, maybe even higher. All of our, our primary volunteer position, I guess is what you want to call it, is as a volunteer facilitator. All of our support groups are run by volunteer facilitators who are trained by Melissa, who's our program director, who's a licensed mental health counselor and an expressive arts therapist. She's phenomenal. And sometimes I do it with her, and my background is as a licensed independent clinical social worker. And it's about a 24-hour in total training on all issues related to childhood bereavement and group facilitation. So that's one opportunity, is for somebody, and there's no requirements in terms of education, professional background, any of that. If you are the kind of person who is touched by the mission and you like to work with kids or adults even in running facilitating the adult groups, but the requirements are you must attend the training sessions, which are, like I said, about 24 hours in total, complete a criminal background check, and agree to participate for no less than 1 year or one school. Our groups run from September through June. So if you join mid-year, we expect you to go during this school year. Like if somebody just got trained now, they would finish up the whatever 6 weeks, whatever it is left, and then go through the whole school year next year. That's very rarely an issue. We've only had people leave, if they're moving or get a new job, things like that. But it's a lost group. So the last thing we want is for kids to be connecting with their facilitators and their facilitators. So it's a big time commitment because it's 8 hours a month that you work in a group, which comes it's two nights, either 2 Monday nights throughout the month or 2 Thursday nights throughout the month. It's 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. So it's a pretty big time commitment. That's our biggest volunteer opportunity. You have a question, and then I can tell you some other opportunities.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, and maybe this is totally going sideways for a moment, but what are the ages of the children that are in the program?
So our groups run from preschool through high school.
Preschool through high school. Wow. Okay. And so different groups would be, are they bracketed by age, or is it on the schedule that they could meet, or how does that work? So you're saying Monday nights, and I was just kind of thinking, is it age-based or?
So it's not, it's actually age-based, but within each of the nights. So we used to just have group on Monday nights, 2 Monday nights a month in Wayland. Temple Shir Tikva generously donates their space to us. We need a lot of space because we actually have, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what a night looks like. From 5:30 to 6:30, the volunteer facilitators meet with Melissa and I. Melissa goes through the activities that are planned for each of the age/developmental age groups that will happen that night, and introduce by describing the new families who are starting group, because we're what's called an open-ended program, so families can join at any time. So this coming Monday night, we have 2 new families who will be joining. So Melissa will spend time telling a little bit about who died, when did they die, what were the circumstances, how many children are in the family, who lives in the home, what are the relationships like, what are their support networks. And say, okay, they're going to be in the red group, which is, we do it by colors, because that way if we need to move kids around, they're not exactly by age. But generally speaking, just to make it easy to understand, our groups fall into preschool, early elementary, late elementary, a boys middle school group, a girls middle school group, and a high school group. That currently we're not subdividing, but we really should because it's too large, but they don't want to split up, which is great. So, and then we have 3 different adult groups. One is for a parent who has had a child die, so the kids are there for a sibling loss. And then we have 2 other groups, both of which are for parents who have a child who lost a parent. The parent may not be a spouse or a partner. They may not have been married, but they all have a child who lost a parent. And we subdivided the adult group because our groups are too large. We actually had to close the Wayland group because we're up to 25-ish families, which is way too many families for group work. So that's why we started the Framingham groups, which are the Thursday nights. And the Framingham groups are smaller because they're just starting, but my guess is within a year, they'll bubble like that as well.
Wow. So to go back to our question was about how people can help out or support or otherwise contribute to your work at Jeff's Place. So the volunteer side is clear. So all right, so I'll also make sure when this video goes up that there are links there so people can access more resources and information if they're interested in becoming a volunteer and they happen to live in the Boston area. But what about for people who live perhaps outside of the Boston area or outside of Massachusetts even, and are interested in learning more? So we'll kind of, I'll toss that up there and kind of split it. So on the one hand, I'll say, how can those people contribute or support to Jeff's Place, and also what resources are available to people who don't live in the Metro West or the Boston or Massachusetts area?
Right. So the best, so the volunteer facilitating is obviously one, but what you're asking is how can other. The another just as important and big area that we need help with, we charge nothing for any of our, and we do the support groups. There's no charge for the support groups. We also provide dinner each week, so that's quite a cost.
Right.
And we run the main way that we fundraise right now is we do an annual appeal letter for people who are on our database sometime in the late fall, and then we do a fundraiser, the Spring Fling, which this year is May 4th, and basically it includes a silent and live auction, so people can, regardless of where you live, could donate an item to the auction. Maybe some really great restaurants anywhere within the Boston area. If you're outside of the Boston area and have connections to a hotel package or like a little getaway would be great. Donating miles so that if somebody donates a getaway, then we can send the people. Tickets to sporting events, concerts,
Right.
sports memorabilia of any teams, wherever. Those kinds of things people can donate to the auction. Or just be a corporate sponsor, which is for as little as $50, you get a quarter-page ad, and you can, put your business information from your business card in the program book, or a larger ad. I think $250. We go from $50 to $250, and the highest is we have a sponsorship for a caricaturist because we're going to have a caricaturist at the event. So it's not a lot of money for the corporate sponsors, but it's a way to hopefully get people who will have about 200 attendees. So hopefully it'll be a way to get the word out about your business, but also for people to know that you're philanthropic and you can send a little message or what have you. So that's the other way. The other thing is the best way I have found through my work at Friends Way and now my work at Jeff's Place. I'm all about community awareness and getting the face, regardless of the program I'm working with. Childhood bereavement is a national health care issue. I truly believe it is. If you look in the research, the professional literature, there are negative health outcomes, not for all, but for vulnerable kids who are grieving. They tend to have higher negative health outcomes, mental health outcomes, than kids who are not bereaved. And there's lots of evidence that points that way in the literature. Yet it's not addressed at a national level. And the fact that there are so many children's bereavement centers and programs out there, none of which are funded really through government sources or it's all through private donations and special events. So these programs pop up and then disappear because they can't be sustained.
Right.
So one of my agendas is really a more national agenda, which is to really implement policies and support around getting more support for programs that support grieving children. So, it's a larger conversation, but part of that is you need community awareness.
Right.
So I love to do, how I met you is through public speaking engagements about childhood bereavement. So what I always say, I always try to finish at a presentation saying, if you would be willing to invite me to come speak either at your organization, your place of employment, your home, and invite your friends and family for like a 20-minute talk about childhood bereavement, what the needs are and how the community can support those needs, I would be ever grateful. So those are the other ways.
Well, I'm glad to be able to help with that, and certainly this is I'm going to be sharing this with my my network, which is international. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's like I said, the moment I met you, I really I have so much respect for the work that you're doing, and I think on a personal level, I relate to a lot of what you said and some of the work and the writing that you have done. But obviously, I also know what you're talking about as far as it being a health issue in a lot of cases for kids, and it's a really it's a vital need to be able to provide services for these, for everybody, but in particular children who are dealing with loss. So I really believe in this, and I think it's great. So I'm happy to be able to contribute and kind of get the word out there, both to promote Jeff's Place locally, but also across the board as well. I wanted to ask quickly, I'm curious, if you were to kind of sum up your own personal experience blended with your experience through Jeff's Place, what are the a couple like tips or suggestions or resources that you could point out for people that might see this and are dealing with either personally dealing with grief or a recent loss, or a lot of times we know somebody and we don't know how to bring it up. We're not sure if we can or not, and it's that awkwardness. I know you've dealt with this, I'm sure. I know I did when I've been the one who's lost people, and it's like, nobody knows what to do or what to say, and it's not okay to laugh or not, and that kind of awkwardness. So what are the suggestions or tools or tips, a couple of quick takeaways for people to give them an idea?
So I think you're asking me a couple different things.
Yes.
I would say the takeaway is children who are grieving, and for that matter, adults who are grieving, often feel incredibly isolated. And even if most kids report that they don't know a lot of kids in their daily life who are coping with a major loss like they are. Or if they do know somebody, it's not within the same time period, so they're at a different place in their grief. So, and the American Western culturalization and socialization is not as open to talking about it. So there's a lot of barriers. So I would say the best thing would be to, one, keep the door open. Know that you're a safe person for if somebody is grieving. Just keep the door open and let them know that if at any time you want to talk, and if you feel awkward and you feel that elephant in the room, name it. It feels, I know feels really awkward right now, but I won't say, I just want you to know, if you want to talk about it, I'm here. And then to check in with them every once in a while, because it's going to be hard for them to reach out to you. You have to do the reaching to them. Just keep the door open so that they know. And to hook them up with resources. So we have on our website resources for books, by age category. But also there's online resources for blogs, for support groups that are online. And there's camps. There's a lot of bereavement camps. So I'm the clinical director, as I mentioned to you earlier, of Manitou Experience, which is a week-long camp for grieving boys. We have a camp in Maine and in California. And we work very, very closely with a girls' camp called Circle Camps. And we have camps in Maine, and the one in California we're actually going to be doing together, and New Hampshire. And then there are lots of other camps as well, which you can get links to from our website. For, if you want to refer out. And then there's lots of there's different support programs within every state, I think, has one. The best way to find resources, I think, that I refer people to is called the National Association for Grieving Children. Offhand, I don't remember their website, but if you just Google National Association for Grieving Children, take you there, and they have oodles of resources. And in particular, find a children's bereavement center near you. Zip code, and it'll tell you all the programs in your area. Another great organization is ADEC, which is the Association for Death Education and Counseling, ac.org. They have terrific resources as well to connect you with clinicians in your area who are certified in the study of death, dying, and bereavement, which is called thanatology.
Okay. I'm just going to dial back for a moment and just echo what you were talking about the isolation that happens with so many people. And two things came to mind to me. I know I I tend to, for whatever reason, I'm at a lot of wakes, a lot. I've had a tremendous amount of loss in my life personally, and also friends of friends and that kind of thing. And it's so interesting how even going through like the traditional, you know, a wake or what have you, it seems like, you know, both being on both sides of that for me, there's, you know, during the time of when you're in the, you know, when you're the one that has had the loss, it's like a blur a lot. You don't really know what's going on. And, you know, but one of the things that I always think about is when my brother passed, he was 24, as I was telling you, and I remember, you know, I was in a daze at the wake, but I remember the feeling I had being there, and I remember having people there, and just simply having people there meant the world, even though some of them I can remember who was there, but for the most part it was a giant blur, you know. So that's something that I always think about now when there's somebody that I know. There's oftentimes we have that feeling like, I don't know them that well, should I go, should I not go? And to me, I go, because I know I've been on that side, and just being there matters, whether you know them or not. You know, it makes such a difference. And then also, you know, talking about the isolation, I wish that I knew about this program, or there was something like this when, you know, back when we were kids, right? I lost my mother when I was 14. She was in a car accident, and you know, and it happened over the summer. So I remember I went back to this, you know, September, you go back to school, and everybody's talking about, how was your summer? Where did you go? And, you know, what was it like? All excited. And I felt like, what do you say? Like, you know, and honestly, to this day, when I meet somebody and they ask about my family, it's always one of those things where, you know, people are uncomfortable talking about death, and so they don't know what to say, so people can get kind of tongue-tied quickly. When they'll ask me about my siblings, and I always think, people say, you know, are you the oldest, or do you have any siblings? And I think, well, I'm the oldest of 5, and then they want to know about them, and so I tell them, and it's like, how do I say, I have 2 brothers, or I had 2 brothers. I have 1, I had 2. It's like, it's so interesting. So I don't know, maybe, you know, people who have experienced some of this.
We hear that all the time.
Right.
And I personally experienced that as well you know, I never knew how to answer that question, because it's a very superficial introductory question to meeting people. Oh, you know, do you have any brothers or sisters? Or, oh, what do your parents do? Or those kinds of things. So, yeah, people struggle with that. And you know, we talk about it in our groups a lot. It comes up, and it's always come up in the 20 years I've been doing this. And what's interesting is one person may feel comfortable. You know, we have some people who just say, I just say, you know, if it was me and there were 3 of us, I just say, yeah, I have 2 brothers, and leave it at that. Other people say, I can't do that. You know, I'll usually just say, yes, I have a brother, one's here and one's in heaven. Or people come up there with their own thing, and what I always encourage them to do is try out, especially in group, right? Try out different responses and find what feels most comfortable with you, because none is going to feel comfortable. And what we've realized is, in different contexts, you may have a different answer.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to want to get into it a little bit more, and sometimes you're not. So there is no right answer, but it's just an example of one of the complex issues that people who are grieving deal with. They're creating it themselves. It's pretty amazing.
That's the best. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
So I think, as we kind of wrap up, I'm just curious if there is like a, you know, it's like a success story or something that you want to share in a positive light, because this subject can be, you know, really tough, obviously, to talk about, but it's very important work. But I'm trying to, personally, what I do when I talk about death with people, and I'm not a clinical social worker or anything like that, I have my PhD in personal experience, so I try to shift the perspective a little bit and create the space to talk about it, like you said, and to laugh and to smile and to honor and to celebrate. But I'm curious, from your own perspective, either personally or, you know, on behalf of Jeff's Place, if there are any kind of closing thoughts or anything, a positive spin, or if there's something that you'd like to share to kind of put a bow on this conversation.
Sure. I mean, I think of it all as positive. So
yeah.
I guess I mean, I guess one of our great quote unquote successes, which makes me so proud, is when we had our first participant, teen participant, who turned into one of our best, incredible. I mean, all of our volunteer facilitators are incredible, but she had that added experience of having been in the teen group before she transitioned into being a volunteer facilitator, and her growth was astounding to me, and she's grown into this incredible young woman who is so empathic and articulate and bright, and she's just, she's already making a difference in the world. And I always say to her, when you look back at when you started here, what a mess you were, as you should be, well, not should, but as often people are.
Right.
It's not that Jeff's Place did all of that for her, but she allowed herself to find what she needed and take what she needed and integrate her loss in a healthy part of herself and continue her journey in her life and completely transform herself. And she's continuing to transform herself. So when she became a volunteer facilitator and went through the training, and it just was remarkable. I mean, it's just so special. So I love that. Yeah, and similar stories at our boys' camp. I mean, our oldest campers are getting ready to start camp this summer, and we have our oldest campers who are going to start a CIT program, and they're going to start to learn how to become leaders and mentors and eventually groom them to be counselors.
Wow.
It's just heartwarming. So it's really great.
Wow, that's great. So to wrap up, we were talking the ways that people could support or get involved with or benefit from Jeff's Place. Either, we'll look online and we'll include a link on this video for information about becoming a volunteer.
Yes.
Also, people can contribute to your upcoming event, which will be held in May of this year, 2013, May 4th, 2013.
It's not a lot of time, so please, 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 we could use more stuff.
Okay, so if they want to contribute items or be a corporate sponsor.
Yes.
And then also, you have a donate page on your website as well, so people could donate, just make a cash donation if they'd like.
Yeah, they could either send a check or go through PayPal.
Okay, so you have a link set up, and you're a 501c3.
You're a 501c3, yes.
Okay, terrific. And then you mentioned there's a resource link as well, so you have a lot available on your website, and that video is terrific.
Yeah, we have the resources for books. We also have resources for online support. And I'll just do a quick little commercial, but one of the resources is a book that I wrote, Young Adults Coping with Death, You Are Not Alone. And it's geared towards young adults or very mature, I'd say very mature teens, but ideally 20s to 30s, although people older have also said it's been helpful, but it's a small booklet and it's 100% of the proceeds. The check just goes to Jeff's Place.
So people can buy that book on your website as well?
Yes, they can send a request for the book.
Okay.
It's $10.
Okay, great. So we'll include that as well. So, all right. Well, terrific. I'm so happy we're able to connect today and to just kind of have this conversation and, talk a little bit deeper than we were able to before. And I hope we're able to stay in touch, and certainly I'll see what I can do in the short term to help muster up some support for your event.
And if people come, it'll be fun. We're going to have a caricature artist. We're going to have a photo booth. It's for adults, but it's going to be really fun. We'll have tons of food, beer and wine, silent live auctions, and great musical performances.
Okay, terrific. So I will certainly, I have it actually penciled on my calendar, so I'm hoping I will be able to attend.
Right.
And then do what I can to help just, put the word out there, because I think it's a really valuable resource. And I did also look at your book as well, and I think it's great. So I just want to thank you for coming on today, and perhaps we'll check back with you in, in some other time in the future and see what's new and what's going on, and maybe do a preview of the new video that the kids are doing.
Oh, that would be great. The kids are good.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will certainly connect soon.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, Jenny. Thanks.